Hey everybody, in today's video I'm going to show you how you can modify the ribbon in your Excel file to insert custom images in there. And so this is different than just modifying your ribbon for your personal use where all the files that you open are going to have the same sort of layout. This is actually modifying the ribbon so that if you send the file over to somebody else, they'll see the exact same icons and images that you're using. So to do this, if you don't already have it, you will want to download the custom UI editor for Microsoft Office. Just a simple Google search, and you should be able to find a download of that you can use. And once you've got it installed, you can use it and you'll see it like a screen like this. If you want an overview on how to use it in general, you may want to check out my earlier video that goes over how to create custom buttons and images on your ribbon. And so for starters, the first thing you're going to want to do when you modify ribbon is open up an Excel file. So file, open, and then select any sort of file. And you'll see something like this. So right now there's nothing in here. And what you're going to want to do is insert either 2007 or 2010 in newer code. So unless you're working on an older machine, you're going to use the 2010 version. And well, you can put code for both of them. It's not going to make a huge difference, but if you know you're only going to use on the newer one, you only need 2010. I'm going to go to Insert and use some sample XML. So as opposed to just starting this from scratch, I'm going to use a simple built-in one. So I'm going to type in, or I'm going to select the custom tab here. So it's just a simple code here that adds a custom tab, gives me a custom button with an image, an on-action event, the size, a label, all that sort of stuff. So easy to work with right out of the box. So the one thing when you're doing images is you need to insert your own, because obviously the ones that I'm using right now are built-in Excel functions. And how you can tell it's not a built-in Excel function, but a built-in Office image. So for example, this image MSO tag, that tells me that it's using a built-in image that's within Office. It's using a happy face image. So you can find a list of all these images just doing a quick Google search. For example, if I typed in image MSO gallery in Google, I can click on one of these links here. And these are the names of them along with the icons. So if I looked for happy face, that's exactly the image that I'm going to see. It's going to be a bit larger, but it's going to show up on my ribbon. So that's how you can find out what these different image MSO names are and what images they relate to. Now the benefit of using an image MSO image is that it'll stretch out nicely. You can use it as a fairly large icon, and it shows up really well within your ribbon. If you're using your own custom image file, then you got to pay attention to the dimensions. Ideally, you're working with something that's a bit of a square, like 16 by 16 or 32 by 32 in size, a PNG file, so it's not terribly large. So there's just things like that you kind of want to pay attention to. That doesn't mean you can't use larger files, and you certainly can, but the problem is they may not display nicely. So it can take a bit of a trial and error when you're using a new image to see how well that looks. So for starters, what I need to do is now insert the images that I want to use. So going back to the insert menu, I'm going to click on icons. And so I've downloaded a few here. I've got a Disney Plus logo, a Google logo. This is the logo that I use for my files, and Netflix. So I'm going to grab all these, hit open. And now if I open up this plus sign here, that's where they all are. And so these are the names of all these icons. So for Disney Plus logo, this is a bit of a long one. I want to simplify this. So I'm going to right click, change ID, and just type in Disney. So this is case sensitive, so pay attention if you're using a lowercase or uppercase, like in the case of Netflix here. And so to use these images, what I'm going to do is get rid of this MSO and just use the image tag. The image tag tells me I'm not using a built-in image. And now I can reference Disney just by typing in Disney. Now I can copy and paste this a few more times. And I'm just going to show you how these different icons look, because they're different sizes. Mine I've kind of worked on to make sure it displays well. So now the one thing you want to do anytime you've modified the ribbon and you're about to save it is click this validate button just to make sure that it looks that the code looks okay. And here we get a message saying the custom button ID is already used. And that means this ID. So each one of these IDs needs to be unique. If you were to save this file and open it up, your images are not going to show up. So I could change this to button 1, button 2, 3, and 4. Now hit validate. That's the message you want to see before you save this. So save and then close. And now what I'll do is I'll open up the file and see what my custom tab looks like. So here's my custom tab at the very end. And here I've got these different images. So here you can see the disadvantages of some of these icons. Like the Google image was a bit of a square, so it looked okay, but it still looks a bit blurry. You can see mine looks a bit fine, and that's because, you know, I've been working on trying to get an image that works okay. The Netflix one was a bit narrow. You can see it's sort of shrunken down a bit. So these are some of the disadvantages of sometimes using any sort of images that you find online, is they may not display exactly how you want. Especially this Disney one, it's really shrunken down. But this is how you would insert these custom images. And so I'll show you what these images look like in my folder. So you can see Google was 225 by 225. So a pretty ideal, not ideal size. You could make it a bit smaller, I suppose, but not terribly large. A square dimensions. Netflix, you can see, was 3900 by 26. This is a much bigger dimensions. The file size 25 kilobytes. So this is not an ideal file by any stretch, and that's why you can see that it's got compressed and didn't look very well. Disney, on the other hand, was way too wide, 3000 by 2000, nowhere near a square. And you can see the file size 78 kilobytes. Mine, on the other hand, 64 by 64, only 2 kilobytes, so it displays pretty nicely. So those are the things you may want to consider when you're thinking about which icons to use. You want to aim for that 64 by 64 or 32 by 32, 16 by 16, whatever the case may be, so that it displays nicely. Now, the one thing I haven't been able to get these custom icons to work is having them stretch out even farther. You'll notice here that they go up to about, there's no macro here, but they go out to about half the space. This extra line here isn't used. If you use the built-in icons, they work a bit better and can get bigger in size. And so again, that's the main advantage of using the built-in ones. It's easier to use. You're not spending time, trying to fine-tune these images. And there's a lot of pretty useful ones, but obviously you want a custom file, then you may need to spend the time to update these. So what I'd suggest is aiming for about, at least a couple words, so you don't just have one word here and then a blank space here, because like I said, even if I were to update this, and let me do that right now, I'll open up this file one more time, and even if I get rid of this word, this label, custom button, that's not, unfortunately, going to fix that issue. Because if I open up this file one more time, then what's going to happen is I'm just going to have empty space underneath. So even though I've gotten rid of that text, the image isn't automatically going to stretch out to do that. So even with varying dimensions, it doesn't do that. So if that's important to you, I'd suggest trying to use one of the built-in functions. Otherwise, use at least two words of text here, so that you don't have a blank, especially if you're using a custom function, just to avoid that issue where you've got that blank space. But that's how you can use custom images in your ribbon. My suggestion is don't try to overdo it, just because you may end up spending a lot of time trying to fine-tune these images and get the dimensions just right, the file sizes just right, so they show up properly. A lot of the built-in images do a good job, but obviously by being able to use your own custom ones, you can definitely personalize it and make it stand out from other templates or files that you make. So hope you found this video useful, and if you did like it, please hit me up with a like. Thanks.